Hi everyone. Everybody could hear me? My glasses are like, can't see. How's everybody doing tonight? It's like 6, okay. Tonight we're gonna talk about online dating. What is this? Oops. It's already in order. Okay. So while I'm waiting a couple minutes, tell me how many of you dated during COVID, during coronavirus? So I want to share with you some information. So dating in general and meeting someone new is very different today than it was a year and a half ago. Obviously it's because of the coronavirus and the health pandemic. But so I'm going to give you some information, like some interesting data to share, and then I also want to share with you, talk about online dating versus finding somebody in person, and talk about the dangers of dating, of meeting somebody new online, especially during this time of COVID. The only way you can meet people was online and develop a relationship that way. And then I want to talk to you about tips moving forward, because what I believe is happening is that because of coronavirus, people are now going to have serious anxiety returning back into the dating world in real person. And I think it's because you're not going to know what to do. Then you have all the questions of who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated. Do you believe in it? Do you don't believe in it? If you got sick or not. And there's some information that I read about, people are really nervous about meeting people in person after all this time. So let's talk about online dating. How many of you use online dating apps? Like, there is tons of apps, like tons. Every day there's like a new one that comes out. It's really interesting. And I'll give you tips, truthfully, on which ones, depending on what you're looking for, which app is more effective. So for instance, if you're looking just to meet people and get hookups, you can use any of them. Tinder, Plenty of Fish, Grindr, and I forget some of the other ones. But if you're looking for a relationship, then you might want to do some of the, like, Match.com, eHarmony. The other ones that have been really good, and I've had some of my patients use, is like Hinge and Hilly have been really good. And then the rest of them are 50-50 chance. Depends on if the person profile is correct. So if you're not catfishing and you're not lying in your profile, then maybe you would be, you'll find somebody. Otherwise, you have to be very careful in online dating, because the dangers are that people make fake accounts. Do you know how many people make fake accounts? There's actually research done on this. There are up to 50% lie in some form or another in their online profile. That's a lot. That is a lot. Especially, so think about that for a minute. That 50% of the people you interact with online actually are lying about themselves. That's a lot. Well, I know a lot of people were up here and then they left, but so let's talk about Wow. So 50% create fake accounts, 71% lie. Sorry, I gave you the wrong data. That's very interesting. So let's go right into the do's and don'ts. There are actually do's and don'ts to online dating versus dating in person, which they call it offline dating, the opposite of online dating. But anyway, so there's do's and don'ts. So let's talk about it, like the pros and cons, the positive and negative. So online dating, obviously the positive is you reach more people. So there's over 40 million singles signed up in some type of online dating app or profile, which on one hand is really good, but on the other hand, that means there's too many people online, and you have to like read through and figure out which ones are telling the truth, which ones you might want to find out more information about. So it could become very anxiety provoking having so many options. Sometimes it's not better to have more options, sometimes it's worse. Another positive to online dating is 1 out of 5 relationships actually start online. So this statistics is true. Like, whereas it used to be, I mean, when I was dating a long time ago, like 16 years ago, you met somebody in person at a bar, grocery store, restaurant, church, out somewhere, family get together, and then you got to know them that way and you went on dates. Now it's 1 out of 5 relationships start online. And it's not only dating apps, so social media too, Instagram, Facebook. A long time ago, I'm about to age myself, MySpace. And I don't know if there was other ones too, like I think it was a Spanish online profiling dating thing, and blackpeoplemeet.com. That still might exist actually, but it's not used as much. But social media is another way that people meet, through the DM, direct messenger. So 1 out of 5 relationships start online. So because of that, it's more of a probability that you're going to meet somebody and end up dating them if you meet them online. But there's 4 out of 5 that don't start a relationship online. And the negative is that they lie about their age, their weight, their height, their income. They use old pictures, they filter, it's really a lot. So you meet them online, you talk to them, and then when you finally meet them in person, they're not the person that you were talking to all the time. Or they might be the person, but they're just look a lot different. And are looks important in dating? Absolutely. What I'm going to say to you is this. We can sit here and say all day that appearance and physical attraction is not important, that you want to get to know somebody, that you want a real relationship with somebody who has substance and like goals for themselves and work and have a good heart, etc., etc., all the other personality characteristics that we discussed. But I'm going to tell you right now, don't lie to yourself. Physical attraction is important, and we all have a type that we like. Some of us have more variety of type we like. So no online dating. Yeah, I'm old school too. I wouldn't be able to do online dating either. But I haven't dated in over 16 years. So, but well, everything's opening up now again, so you'll be able to go out and meet people, but it's gonna be a lot different. And I'm gonna talk to you about that before we finish today, because you have to expect psychologically people are gonna be in a different space. You know how you used to flirt by giving like eye contact and all this stuff? People are not going to understand the signs and the body language, and people are going to be very anxious. Some people are really still nervous about coronavirus. So depending where you live and how bad it is, and whether or not your state has reopened completely, like here where I'm at, we've opened completely. So yeah, old school for sure. Yeah, I'm old school too. I really like to meet people in person because it's easier to read a person and get to know them and right away know if they're full of it and they're lying. Truthfully. In person, you could do that. Online, you're not going to be able to do it as much. So another positive of online dating, you can meet people outside of your geographic area and social circle with similar interests. So you'll meet more people that maybe you have things that you like similar, but again, if they're lying and they're not telling you the truth, then you don't know. And you have to be aware that people get stuck in what's called, they call it the digital pen pal syndrome, where they just want to just write and text and email, and message you only, and they never really want to meet you in person or start dating, but they create this fantasy relationship through pen pal, through writing. You have to be careful because there's people like that that don't really want to take the relationship to the next level. So that's the dangers of online dating too. Another good thing about online dating is that you have access 24 hours a day, all the time. I mean, to me, that's too much access. You want some downtime too. The negative is that it feels like a full-time job, just screening and going through messages and talking to people. You have to organize. You have to, if you're fully at full capacity trying to date online. But another positive is many sites provide matching tools and send you emails of suggested matches to make it easier for you to view potential dates. The problem is that some singles limit their search criteria to height, zip code, or income and can miss the opportunity to meet a compatible match. Because sometimes people are not going to put all their information up there, and maybe they don't want somebody to know that they make a lot of money or have a lot of money, so then they don't attract, gold diggers. So now, offline dating, this is going to be important, especially with us moving back into socializing. The positive is you may have friends in common, which will make you more comfortable. So when you meet somebody in person, you might start talking and realize that you know similar people. And so you could even do group dating, so you get to know the person in a group format instead of one-on-one, which is a very healthy way to kind of get the vibe if somebody is compatible with you or not, or if they're crazy or not, or you could see signs of aggressiveness or narcissism, and these are things that are really important. Why? I mean, nobody wants to date a narcissist, because a narcissist only thinks about themselves. They believe the world revolves around them, and they kind of have the God complex. And the other thing narcissists do is they do a lot of gaslighting, meaning that they trick you into believing everything wrong between you two is your fault. Even if you were right, they somehow completely trick you, manipulate you into believing that you were wrong. So you gotta be careful. But there's a lot of signs of different personalities, and you can see people for who they are if you take your blinders off. Unfortunately, though, when we're dating, we are looking for positive things and looking for compatibility. We're not looking for red flags. We should be looking for red flags, and I talk about red flags a lot, and I actually share with my patients a list of red flags to look out for. And there's different things you could do to test the type of personality or the type of person they are. For instance, if somebody invites you to dinner, if they invited you, that means you have to pay, or do they pay? Let me see what you say. I mean, there's old school version, there's a new school version, obviously. But old school version, if somebody invites you to eat, who pays? The person that invited you, or you? And the reality is, why invite me if you're not going to pay for me? So the other person who invited you is supposed to pay. That's the rule. It's dating etiquette. And there's a lot of dating etiquette issues with people today. It's a new generation, so nowadays, if you go on a date, you're supposed to each pay your own meal. I just don't even understand that. Yeah, I agree, Lady J. So another dating in person or offline dating positive is you can determine if there's chemistry in person sooner. The negative is that you're limited to your existing social circles or regular activities to meet people, unfortunately. Another positive dating in person is pre-dating without the pressure of wondering if your date's profile is accurate. Because you could bring your friend, they could bring a friend. Like I said, group dating. The negative of that, con of that, is singles may feel shy and not ask someone out for an official date. They'll just do the friend thing. And then what happens is that if you stay too long in dating out in public, being friends only, you get stuck in the friend zone. And when you're stuck in the friend zone, there's no way coming out of it. Truthfully. Unless the line gets crossed where you become romantic or intimate one-on-one. Another positive and pro for dating in person is you can easily... Alright, this is just repeating some of the same stuff I said already. Sorry. So the only other problem with dating in person is that you're only going to meet people in the area you're in. I don't think that's a total problem, but it is if you feel like the area you live in, there's not that many options. And sometimes you might live in an area where there's a lot of married couples. It's just, you would just have to go somewhere else. I mean, there's plenty of, you could travel and go to another city or town or something, but. So, how many of you have dating anxiety? Meaning, you get nervous before the date, what to wear, if it's going to be successful, what to talk about. I mean, this is going to be extreme when we all go back out in the real world. I mean, some of us are already in the real world, but socializing. I'm not completely socializing yet either. But what I would say to you is that dating anxiety is real. And the interesting thing is, you may still have dating anxiety even if you're in a relationship, but you like decide to go on dates. Okay, Lady J, you have dating anxiety. So I'm gonna give you some tips to lessen your dating anxiety, whether it's with somebody new that you're going on a date with but you were friends with before, or a blind date, or you're going on a date with the person you're in a relationship with. Because all of those reasons you can have anxiety. All right, so tip number 1, talk about what's important to you. So you don't want to be careful that you don't get in the mix of you trying to talk and fill the air and the space. You know, sometimes when you're out to eat dinner or something, there's quiet time and you try to fill the space by talking about just anything. Be careful not to do that. Only talk about what's important to you. Any questions you have or anything that's important to you that you're passionate about, because they're going to be able to see your excitement and your passion. Like if you're passionate about dogs and rescue dogs, or if you're passionate about family, or you're passionate about your career, or about a new adventure you're going to go on. You want to talk about anything like that. So that's the number 1 tip. Number 2, focus on the present. Do not, I can't say do not enough. Talk about your past. Do not. Matter of fact, you shouldn't be talking about past relationships. You shouldn't be talking about past mistakes you made. You're going to get to know each other, but the point of this is you do not have to dump and divulge everything on a date. You don't. And truthfully, some of that stuff you should wait to see if you're compatible with the person enough to even share some of that information. Truthfully, you don't need to share. The past is the past, and your exes are your exes. You do not have to share any stories. Now, you may have to share information about an ex if you're still carrying some baggage. If you have a child with your ex, that's another reason why you may have to share information. You may have to share information if it explains why you are taking your time in dating and taking your time in relationships, or to highlight certain things you don't like or don't want to deal with. Like, for instance, when you go on a date, you already know if you're looking for a real relationship or not. And most people are like, well, no, we could get to know each other. No, mm-mm. You know in your mind if you want a real relationship or not. Period. And I think more people need to be honest with themselves about what they want going in, so then they express that to the other person. Because if not, what happens? This I'm gonna explain to you a typical scenario. You go on a date, man and a woman, woman and woman, man and man. You go on a date with a possible partner, and they start, and you're getting along, and you like the person, and there's this chemistry, right? And you feel like it's compatible. And then the other person says, but I'm not looking for a relationship right now. What do? You are looking for a relationship. Well, you know what ends up happening? The person ends up saying, well, I understand. I can wait. I'm not looking for a relationship either. No, you just changed exactly how you're feeling to fit what they're saying. And that's not true. That's why sometimes two people get together and they're in a relationship, and one person is already moving along in the relationship and is ready for the next step, and the other person is slow like a turtle because they didn't want to get in a relationship to begin with yet. And and there was some compromising. The problem with compromising is sometimes you compromise to the point where you actually negate and deny yourself what your needs are, access to your needs. And so you have to be honest. If you're looking for a relationship, that's what you're looking for. That means you guys aren't compatible, period. If they're not looking for a relationship, then they're not looking for a relationship. And that's where why a lot of people, it's like hit or miss, and they date for 2-3 years and then really realize they're not on the same page because they weren't on the same page to begin with in regards to what they both wanted. Because the truth is, if somebody meets somebody that's worthwhile, even if they're not ready for a relationship, they will get ready, truthfully, because they're worth it. If you meet somebody and they're worth being with, you're going to jump into it. So the third tip to lessen dating anxiety: assume the best, not the worst. So don't jump to conclusions about what your date might be thinking about, because anxiety can get the best of you, and you can start assuming a lot of things, certain behavior, or if they're like messing with their phone, or they're not paying attention, looking over to the side. Remember that you have dating anxiety. That could mean that the other person has dating anxiety too. And we do weird things when we're anxious. Like we touch things too much. We play with our hair. We laugh. Some people laugh when they're anxious. Some people avoid eye contact when they're anxious. They obviously make mistakes. Over talk, overshare sometimes when you're anxious. So just calm your mind. Don't assume the worst and ask questions. The truth is that if you want to know something, don't try to figure it out. Just ask questions. I don't understand why, as human beings, sometimes we try to analyze and figure things out without collecting the information. So just collect the information directly from the source. Ask the question to the person. If you want to know if they have children, just ask them if they have children. If you want to know if they used to be married, ask them that. If you want to know if they're looking for a real relationship or not, ask them that. Is that we get so nervous asking certain questions because we think that they're going to get scared and run away. The truth is, if they're going to get scared and run away, they're going to do it either now or later. Rather they do it now if they can't handle a question you're asking them truthfully. They should be able to handle it. And then the last tip for lessening dating anxiety is disrupt your negative thoughts. So as soon as you hear it's like a tape in your head. I don't want to say voice in your head because then some of you might look at me like I'm a little weird that you hear a voice in your head, but whatever. Hi, Peter. Hi, Melanie. I saw Melanie was in here too. Challenge those thoughts with questions like, is it possible I misinterpreted this text? How many times you get a text from someone you're dating and you get all riled up and upset because you read it a certain way and you interpreted what they were saying? And you were like, what they mean? Oh no, they're not gonna be talking to me like that. and it could have just been a mistake, or writing what you're saying is different. The way it translates is totally different. So instead, ask question for clarification. Say, I'm sorry, what did you mean by this text? Can you clarify for me? Or what do you, or ask a question like, am I reading this wrong? Did you mean to say this or that? You have to ask, because if not, you're going to assume. And when you're dating on a regular basis, you have to be very careful, because you will make a lot of assumptions. Some of the assumptions is based off of the other person's behavior, but some of the assumptions is based off of your own insecurities, past experiences, assumptions, perceptions, anxiety, obviously. So you have to be very careful. So anxiety, do you know that social anxiety affects over 15 million women and men in the US? Social anxiety. 18% of the adult population. That doesn't even count youth and teenagers. So, and social anxiety is persistent fear of one or more situations which the person is exposed to, possibly begins to scrutinize. You're nervous about being humiliated or embarrassed. Basically, it's, some people have social anxiety where they can't be in big crowds. I used to work with somebody like that, and it's hard to break free of that. Some people don't like new places. Some people don't like certain environments. If you have anxiety because of PTSD, because of trauma, one thing possibly that you would do when you're in a social setting is you would sit where you're back against the wall, so you won't have anybody behind you and you can see everything in front of you. Have you ever noticed anybody that has PTSD, anxiety from PTSD, they do that in a social setting? So there are things you can do, obviously, to overcome. So I gave you tips on how to lessen dating anxiety. Now I'm going to talk to you about possible ways to overcome dating anxiety, which it's always easier said than done, truthfully, because it's not that simple. But because what happens is that, do you know that social anxiety actually paralyzes an individual and will stop them from dating altogether? I have a relative, I'm not going to say who, but I have a family member who has not dated in over 20 years. She's older than me, but she's a wonderful woman too, and she has a lot to offer. Just her social anxiety is so bad that she just can't. And she rarely leaves the house. She only leaves the house to go to work and go to the grocery store. That's it. She goes nowhere else. It's not healthy. So there's 5 ways to overcome social anxiety, dating anxiety. Okay. The first, practicing self-disclosures. So first off, remember, I'm pulling this from research, so I'm going to tell you what they say, and then I'm going to tell you what I believe in per my expertise and my professional experience throughout 20 years. So they say practice self-disclosure. Now, self-disclosure means that you share everything about yourself. You're honest, open, authentic. The problem I have with this is that if you lack self-confidence, or you have some insecurities about yourself or self-esteem issues, self-disclosure is going to be very hard. Very hard. Because when you have those issues with yourself, you are constantly self-critical and judging yourself in a continuous basis. And if you disclose negative things about yourself, it's just going to make you feel judged, truthfully. So you have to be very careful. Self-disclosure needs to be used in the right way. What I would say to you is that I think some self-disclosure is necessary. Like I said earlier, self-disclosure of what you're looking for and what you want is very important. That's number 1. So that will reduce some anxiety, because then you'll be on the same page. If you guys are looking to get to know each other, to possibly have a relationship, or you're flat out looking for a relationship, or you just want friend with benefits, or you looking for a good time only, because you're young. I mean, you want to, that definitely is something you should self disclose. Now, it's very hard because when you have anxiety, it's hard to let your guard down and trust people. And if you have previous trauma, PTSD, you definitely will have some struggles with letting your guard down and trusting people. The important thing about trust is that people need to earn it. So if they don't earn it, then don't give it to them. Stop giving people trust that haven't earned it, truthfully. You're trusting the wrong people, and you're trusting people who probably are lying. But the other thing is great to practice self-disclosure is to talk about what you think and how you feel and be honest. And there's certain topics that are really like hot topics, like politics. Don't ever talk about politics on a date, but you do have to find out what their views are, because it's going to be hard to date somebody who doesn't have the same views as you, truthfully. I mean, I know somebody who goes on dates with people, and that's the first question she asks them, because she does not want to date a person that is of a specific party or thought process. And that's what she does, because she immediately knows that that's one of her no's, her definite nots. So that's the other thing you want to figure out for yourself. What are your top priority needs that you want the other person to have in their, as far as quality, personality, characteristic? I would say top 3 only, because some of us have like a list of like 30. I have a lot, but top 3 are the most important needs, not wants. It's what you need from a person. Like, for instance, one is, do you want somebody that is gonna make you feel safe and protected, right, and secure? So there's physical security, where you feel safe with the person, and then there's financial security, where the person can take care of you and take care of the family, etc. So you have to determine what is important to you. Is it important that they believe that family dynamics is important, like they have a good relationship with their family or not? I mean, people shouldn't be judged on whether they have a good relationship or not without you getting to know more information. I mean, it's important, because how they treat their parents will tell you who they are. Even if their parents didn't raise them, even if their parents have a drug or alcohol addiction, it does not matter. It tells you about their personality if they treat them right or wrong. Just because somebody else makes bad decisions doesn't mean you should treat them wrong, especially if they're your parents. You have one mom, one dad. Whether they're doing their job to the fullest or not is irrelevant. They are your mom and dad. Now, you can have a healthy relationship with a parent that you don't necessarily agree with how they're living their life. You just have to have a relationship with boundaries and expectations. So you have to be careful there. But it does tell you a lot if they don't have a good relationship with their parent. So the second way to overcome dating anxiety is reducing the threat of judgment from others and yourself. See, I was already talking about that. You have to be careful the things you disclose and talk about on a date, because, or even pre-date, even leading up to the date, like the stuff you share with them if you're online dating or you met them in person. You have to be careful not to disclose too much too soon, because remember that some things you're going to disclose to them, they may not be ready to listen to or hear or understand, because they don't know you completely. So you might share one thing with them, and then they make all these assumptions and judgment on you before they even know the rest of it, right? So that's why I said a little while ago, if they have a good relationship with their family, or if they don't, that matters. But you got to get to know more information behind it and not just assume, because there's a lot of people who their family is dysfunctional and they don't have a good relationship with them, but they speak to them, but they still believe in the family unit, and it's important for them to have a family unit. So you can't judge everything based off of partial information. You have to get more information. So back to this reducing the threat of judgment. That's the reason why sometimes people lie, by the way, or why they don't share information. So They may tell you half truth. It's not okay, truthfully, but when you first meet somebody, it is understandable that they do that, especially in a social setting or dating environment. During COVID, it was really hard because people would date and they would just do this video, FaceTime, text, message only, and so the negative part of COVID is that they couldn't see people in person, so they missed the opportunity for romance, intimacy, touch, physical touch. And I always talk about the love language, and one of the five love languages, physical touch, and some of us need that. So the problem is that COVID got rid of that. The positive on that is that COVID forced people to really get to know each other in a deeper way than just physical. Because sometimes physical intimacy and romance blurs the line of everything else and confuses the line of everything else. Sometimes intimacy and romance can mask something, like if there is compatibility, but physical compatibility is not relationship compatibility. It's different. So you have to be careful that you don't become physical too soon. I mean, I have a rule about that when I coach people into getting into healthy relationships. One of my rules is 15 dates. You should go on 15 dates before you touch, kiss, anything. Because the reality is you have to get to know each other on a deeper level to see if you can have a relationship in a compatible way, in a respectful way, in a healthy way, without it being physical. Because you could have a physical relationship without anything else, and if that's what you want, that's fine. But if you're looking for a relationship that's a commitment, you have to seek and find out more than just physical. So that was the second way to overcome. The third way to overcome dating anxiety is acceptance. So a lot of this, what it's saying here, is you have to go through your own individual journey. In order to be able to date in a healthy way, you have to go through a journey of making sure you know what you want, making sure you know who you are, making sure you are going to be able to see any red flags without being blindfolded. Because sometimes we want something so bad that we push for it, even though there are red flags or signals all over the place that is not good for us. And that's because maybe we might want love so bad, we might want a relationship so bad, that we keep giving a person a chance that is not healthy for us, who is toxic for us, and actually who is more harmful than anything. So we have to be very careful. So there's a journey of individual work you have to do, which is self-acceptance and self-worth. What does that mean? That means accepting everything about yourself, even the things you don't like about yourself, even the things that annoy you about yourself. You have to accept them because they are part of who you are. And what I would say to you is that there are things that you don't like about yourself that maybe you can change, but most things is tied to your personality. So you might not be able to change. You might be able to reduce it or manage it, like self-regulate. What I mean by that, an example of that is having an attitude or getting angry or reacting. If you have a strong personality like me, that you react right away and you're defensive and you're angry and you have attitude, you may not be able to get rid of that. I know I'm not going to get rid of it, but I know how to handle it in a way where I can de-escalate myself and self-regulate, because I have accepted that that's my personality, that I'm going to react because I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to protect myself. And I learned that over the years because of all my experiences. So we all have things about our personality that we have to accept that is a part of us. Now, if you don't like it, you can minimize it or regulate it in a way where it doesn't come out all the time. But you have to do the work of self-acceptance and self-worth, because if you don't, you're constantly going to be questioning or thinking that somebody else is judging you, or you're going to feel intimidated If you feel like the other person has too much to offer, and you might start thinking that you're not good enough, which is not true. Which is not true at all. You need to value who you are and love the good things about yourself and accept the things you don't like about yourself. I don't want to say bad things because I don't believe anything's bad. I think that some of our personality traits can be modified, not changed completely, but modified. I was having a conversation with somebody. I'm not gonna say who, but it was on a personal note, not work. But I was having a conversation with someone, and they said that they left somebody hanging. And I have to explain this to you because it really bothered me, and I had a deeper conversation with them about it. But they committed to give somebody a ride, and like in the next morning, and when the person called them, they ignored them, and they looked at the phone and said, "I'm not giving them any ride. I'm mad at them right now." They didn't call them. They didn't let them know nothing. They left them hanging. For me, what I try to tell this person was, that's not okay. You can't do that. Like, if you're upset with somebody, you're upset with them. Don't offer to do something for them if you don't want to do it. Like, and the person was like, "Yeah, but I get petty like that. I do that sometimes." I said, "That's not okay. You're not fulfilling and following through on what you committed. You said you were gonna do. I mean, it's minor, it's small." Because it's a ride and they probably could get a ride from somebody else, but it's big because it talks about personality, and these are things that become a part of who you are. And I said, "Do you want to be that type of person that nobody can rely on?" And this person was like, "No, I know I got to change it." I said, "Yeah, but this is a part of your personality, so you're gonna have to accept that this is how you are, that you're not fully reliable." And this is a person that I love to death because it's a family member, but I was like, "You can't do that. You can't just leave people hanging." But that is an example. Those are two examples, my example, myself, and the other person, of how sometimes you have things about you that you don't like. But it's okay. You have to go through your journey of self-acceptance and know that that's just, and the person that you're with, when you start dating somebody, they're going to see that part of you, and they have to accept it. So that's another thing you should self-disclose. Like, I always tell people in the beginning, like, I got an attitude problem. You're going to see it up front. I'm very honest, authentic, and transparent. I'm going to tell you if I don't like something. I'm going to tell you if I do like something. I don't do anything to hurt people's feelings. It's just about me and what I don't want in my life or do want. I've been fortunate enough that I met somebody who could handle me and my attitude, right? And actually we're celebrating 16 years and next week. So I don't know how we made it 16 years, but that's beside the point. So the fourth way of overcoming dating anxiety is reframing catastrophic cognitions, meaning stop thinking catastrophizing and framing everything in a way that it is going to happen that way. Like, for instance, an example of this is, it's the end of the world if I'm rejected. It's going to be the end of the world if I'm rejected. If this person rejects me when I go on a date, if we're not compatible, I'm never going to find anybody else. I'm always going to be single. That is like catastrophizing thought process. You have to reframe or stop yourself. I tell people all the time, and some of you know this because I say it, is that whenever you have anxiety and it starts becoming irrational, where it is like thinking, what if this and what if that, or this or that, or over exaggerating, over generalizing, catastrophizing, like worst case scenario. It would be easy if it was a person. If your anxious thoughts was a person, you box it up and you tell that person, "Shut up, stop." But it's not a person. It's thoughts only. But you could learn to compartmentalize and take those thoughts and put it to the side. Or use positive statements like a mantra you create for yourself, a sentence you create for yourself to get you to switch out of that anxious mode and thought process. It's easy to do it the more practice you get. It's not easy in the beginning. You have to keep pushing yourself, like, stop. Like, there's literally, you could tell yourself to stop. I have to do it sometimes, when you're an overachiever like me that try to accomplish like 500 things all at once. Sometimes you feel like you're gonna fail, and the anxiety takes over, and it makes you think irrational things like, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb, I'm never gonna do this. I just say stop. I yell at myself. I know that sounds a little loopy, but it works. So you have to stop your thoughts from taking over and catastrophizing and making things worse. So always tap into the logical side of your brain. What's real, what's factually based, what is the truth about whatever it is. So like, for instance, if you're on a date, I'll give you an example. You're on a date, you're in a dinner restaurant, and you're looking at your date across the table, and they're not making eye contact, and you start thinking, oh my goodness, they don't like me, I don't think we're compatible, they don't like me, they're not gonna ask me out again, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna find anybody. You start thinking these thoughts and anxiously. You have to stop yourself. Just stop and say, okay, stop. You don't know any of that. So I would say to myself, Kaisha, you don't know any of that. Just sit, talk to the person, ask questions. We're in dinner. Just enjoy the moment. Stay in the present. That's what you have to do. Stop. Anxiety is you overthinking the future or possibilities or what if, or it's future stuff. And when you think about the past too much, that's tied to depression. So you have to be careful either way. The last and fifth way to overcome dating anxiety is mindfulness and emotional intelligence. Now, some people are really into mindfulness and some people are not. And it's not just yoga, by the way. Mindfulness can be things like guided imagery, which is an example is you're listening to a sound or a story. You close your eyes and you're picturing that you're imagining you're in your favorite place. Like for me, my favorite place is a beach and water. So I hear the sound of the waves or the ocean, and that's very calming. That's guided imagery. Usually somebody's guiding you through imagining that. So you're listening to a story. Imagine you're in the beach and you have sand in your feet and stuff like that. Or mindfulness could be as simple as a breathing exercise. Like you just need to calm yourself down. Let's say you're on a date and you start getting so anxious that you feel like you're going to have a panic attack or anxiety attack. Go to the bathroom and do breathing in and out. Just do some breathing exercises in the bathroom. Calm yourself down, and tell yourself, cut it out. Let's just focus on this date. Everything's gonna be okay. You know, speak positivity into your thoughts. Don't allow your negative, anxious thoughts to continue to stew, because if you allow it to continue to stew, it's gonna grow and grow and grow and grow, and then forget it. You will have a panic attack, truthfully, and you don't want that to happen. So you have to be very careful. All right, any questions so far of everything I've just said? I gave you tips on how to lessen dating anxiety. We talked about some strategies to overcome dating anxiety. We talked about the pros and cons of online dating or offline dating. The only thing now we have left to talk about is, are you ready to date now post-COVID? I mean, COVID's still around, but we're calling it post-COVID because everything's opened up. So, any questions before I go into the last piece? No? Okay, I'll keep talking. You guys can keep listening. It's not a problem. So, let's see. Hi, Melanie. I had said hi earlier. In a recent survey, believe it or not, of a thousand single women, 58% said they hope to date and have sex more than they did before the pandemic. All right, I'll go back to that in a minute. Lady J, yes, how do you accept a compliment if you have a really hard time accepting compliments? Like, okay. That's a good question, and that goes back to some of the stuff I was talking about, self-acceptance and self-worth. So the reason why people have problems accepting compliments is because of three reasons. One is low self-esteem, because when they were young, during childhood, they were bullied. Or two, that they had very strict parents growing up, and everything they did was very it was criticized, or you were constantly pushed to actually um, do your best. And let's say you got a B. Why did you get a B? You should have got an A. Why you didn't get an A? So that's the second reason, because of parents being strict. The third reason is because you've been in past emotionally and verbally abusive relationships that you didn't realize you were in. That the person used to talk down to you and call you names and talk negative to you. Those are the three major reasons why self-confidence, self-esteem is impacted in a negative way. And a part of that is not being able to set compliments. So those are three major reasons. There are many other reasons, smaller ones, but those are the three major ones. So how do you accept a compliment? Well, I'm gonna tell you, you have to do some self-work. And there's this thing called self-compassion therapy, that it's like learning to be kind to yourself, learning to compliment yourself, learning to give yourself a break when you make mistakes, learning to not judge yourself or be so self-critical. Before you can accept a compliment from somebody else, you have to be able to accept a compliment from yourself on the things that you don't like. There's an exercise I tell people to do, which is like awkward, but so to stand in front of a full-length mirror, hopefully you have one at home in privacy, and take off all your clothes and look at yourself in the mirror, and look at all the things you like and look at all the things you don't like. And the things you don't like, you have to get to a place where you're okay with them. I mean, you're not going to be doing cartwheels over them, obviously, because all of us have something we don't like about ourselves physically. But start with physical appearance, because the other things are deeper, and you might need somebody to help you with it. The deeper stuff, like believe it or not, if you were in a past emotionally abusive or verbally abusive relationship, it becomes core negative beliefs in your head about yourself that you gotta get rid of, but it takes time to get rid of that. You have to work on it, because the reality is that you don't realize you're in an emotionally abusive relationship. If the person was manipulative, controlling, if they cheated all the time on you and acted like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again, and does it again, and that's an indirect abuse. Is indirect abuse when somebody is a habitual cheater, I will call it. If somebody cheats one time, twice, I mean, it's not habitual. But if there's like the whole relationship, the person cheated, it's manipulative, it's controlling, it's not healthy, it's very toxic. So if you've been in toxic relationships in the past, you don't realize how much it really impacts you, because you walked away from the relationship, but you walked away physically from the relationship, but not emotionally and verbally. You dragged that with you into your life. Wow, okay. I did call it. So now that's why you have to do this work. You have to work on yourself, and you have to kind of rebuild yourself from the inside. And you have to start by complimenting yourself, doing things that make you feel good about you. Put a new outfit on, get a new hairdo. I know this sounds like it's external and aesthetic, but it does help you feel better. It helps you start feeling better when you get your hair done, when you get your nails done, when you get your feet done, when you relax. You start treating yourself good. Like, you deserve to be treated good. You deserve to feel good about yourself. So you have to start doing those things, and start hanging around people who also treat you good, like your friends. We all have friends who we've been friends with for a long time, and we're loyal, but we're loyal to them and they're loyal to us, but they may not be the healthiest for us. So you want to think about that. I talk about that a lot with some of my patients, about friendships, and to reflect on whether they're healthy or not, because if they're not healthy for you, they're just adding to your problems. They're adding to your self-confidence and self-esteem issues. So I'm not saying get rid of them, because only you can decide who you want in your life, but I would say limit the time you spend with them and put boundaries around it. And you have to start speaking up and saying, you know, I don't like what you just said to me. That's just rude. And if they're your friend, I mean, they're not gonna like it, but they have to hear it. They have to listen to it. Remember that you have to treat you good. If you don't treat yourself good, how are you gonna meet somebody else to date and expect them to treat you good if you don't do it for yourself? You have to take care of yourself, and you have to do things that make you feel good. You have to compliment yourself. You have to treat yourself good. I said that twice because it's that important. So you have to do things for you, because then you have to teach people how to treat you, especially with this new dating world. You definitely have to treat people. And Lady J, if you have any more questions, you could always send me a message in my inbox, and we could talk through there if you want. If not, I do have a website that you can send me a message through. My email is on my website. It's KV Training, KV like my initials, KV as in Victor, trainingandconsultation.com. So you could also send me a message through there if you have any more questions or anything. So, in recent survey of 1,000, like I was saying, 58% of women hope to date again and have sex more than they did before the pandemic. But 44% of them worry they're out of practice, and 25% are still worried about catching COVID. So, wow. Only 7% of women dated during COVID. Actually, not women, people in general. It was hard to date. Well, you couldn't really go on dates. I mean, you could do something online, but you couldn't like go physically on dates. So, they are saying they're calling dating post-COVID a tsunami. Can you believe that? That is gonna be like a flood. People are gonna be like opening doors. I don't know if you saw, there was some things on TikTok and then on Facebook where people opened their doors and they said everybody could go out, and everybody went running outside acting crazy. That's how it's gonna be. That's what they're saying. It's gonna be like a tsunami. People are missing dating, socializing, human interaction. I know I'm missing it. I'm still working from home. Thank goodness I have family that actually allow me to visit sometimes. Because I'm not vaccinated yet. It's a long story, but I'm still not allowed to get vaccinated. But so hopefully you guys are taking care of yourself during this time. So that's another thing now. So now you have to ask many questions when you're gonna go on a date with somebody. The additional question is, are you vaccinated? Have you had COVID before? You have to ask all these questions. If you don't know, you don't know. And it is still something interesting. Okay. So to wrap it up, I think what has to be done is there's going to be I want everybody to pay attention. There's going to be new anxieties that arise now dating post-COVID. It's going to be a little bit different. There's still the same social anxiety that existed before, but it's going to feel like it's on steroids, meaning that it's going to feel like you don't know what somebody's thinking. You're going to make a lot of assumptions. You're going to think irrationally. So in order to avoid that, I mean, I gave you tips, but really in order to avoid that, just be honest, authentic with the person that you're going to go on a date with, what you want, what you expect, and then ask questions throughout. And remember, just have fun. Keep it simple. Sometimes we make things complicated by overthinking things and allowing our anxiety to take over. So keep it simple. You want to date, then date. If you want hookups, then have hookups. If you want a relationship, then you need to say that from the beginning and make sure that the person you're going on dates with also wants a relationship. Overall, dating today is going to get a little more complicated before it gets easier. Next week, when we meet again, when I do my next live, I'll talk more about relationships, but I can give some tips on dating post-COVID. I didn't have enough time for that today, but we can talk about that next week. Also, if you have any other questions or anything else you want me to cover, please send me a message in my inbox and send me like whatever topic or question you have that you want me to cover. I'm always talking about relationship, friendships, dating, love, etc., etc. But I could talk about anything. You just tell me, and I could talk about anything. The other thing is that I'm downloading these videos, and then I am creating a YouTube channel. So in case you want to go back and look at the old videos, because I did one on forgiveness, and I did one on how to repair a relationship once it's been damaged. And I have other ones too, but I don't remember from the top of my head. So, any questions before I go? Anybody have any questions? Any comments? You need anything? It's really hot today. I don't know where you guys are from. I'm in Connecticut. It was really hot today. Really hot. I have the AC on. I just can't take the heat, but no questions? All right. So, thank you for listening to my live and my real talk. And hopefully I see you again next week, and invite a friend or somebody to join us. And like I said, if you want a specific topic, just send me a message. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.